Hey, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Abriana and I am the founder and principal consultant at Black Unicorn Creative. And our work is really around helping founders and leadership teams understand who they are, how they operate, and how they want people to experience them. I do that through brand consulting and creating novel leadership development experiences so that they can actually practice what alignment truly means. So this is my third video in a row. You'll see 3 videos that look like this, okay? And I appreciate you. If you're hitting this one last, I appreciate you for being here. But in the first video, I talked about my reflection from Raleigh-Durham Startup Week. In the second video, I was talking about my reflection on conviction and what that means as someone who is building a company and someone who is working on attracting the right clients to do the work, the deep work that I like to do. And this video, I wanted to talk about my notes from one of the keynotes that I attended during Raleigh-Durham Startup Week and my beliefs around that. So on Friday of last week, I drove all the way back to Raleigh. You know, Thursday I was there all day and I was so tired. I got a parking ticket. I was just a little irritable about Raleigh, okay? But Friday, when I attended, I only wanted to see one person. And as soon as I spotted them on the registration a couple weeks prior, I said, I know I will be in their session on Friday. And that was the speaker, Amanda Sabreah. I've been following her on social media for a few months, and I appreciate the way that she breaks down brands and all the research required for her to share her perspective of these brands, whether it be a company or a personal brand, and pop culture and the way messaging and information moves in this digital age. So her keynote was how to build a brand that stands out and scales. You know, I am not in the mind or in the headspace of scaling right now, but I know that my clients are. So going into this keynote, I wanted to know a couple things. It's a little meta because yes, I wanted the information that she had to share, but I wanted to know, as someone who does a lot of speaking, who crafts information professionally, how she crafted her message to deliver it to us. So I'm going a little bit meta, a little bit a step up from the actual content and understanding how she was delivering the message, because I have a few trainings coming up and I am wanting to break down some really complex things, but I have a good instinct on how I want to do that, but I just love seeing how other people do it. What can I learn from that? I am always curious about how other people are approaching sharing information on topics that people just don't know about. So I won't even lie, I felt very validated in some of the messaging that she shared, because it was a lot of what I believe and what I tell my clients. So I was like, heck yeah. A master brand strategist who has worked, what does she say? She's worked on companies with like $500 million in revenue or something like that. We're on the same wavelength mentally, and that made me feel good. Okay, I will not lie about that. But one of the things that she started off with was, great brands are chosen based on a feeling, not on the finishing touches. And I 100% believe that. I called that the lipstick on a pig syndrome. And that was why I shifted my business completely to help with the operational excellence and the experience design of companies, because starting with brand identity and thinking that that was the most important was not working. It was not working for me, and it wasn't working for a handful of clients that I was like, wait a minute, something is just not working. There's a foundation here that was not set before we started putting the makeup on. And one of the things Amanda said also was she wants people to buy things ugly. If somebody will buy something from you when it's ugly, they will buy it from you when it's pretty, when it's gorgeous. And I hadn't thought of it like that because I'm just like, I'm not responsible for that part, but that part is second. You know, I'm really working on and developing these pillars of brand alignment, and the way that you express it is next after the foundations of the brand, not before it. So going a little meta, she kind of worked through a bit of a framework, but she started really by defining the problem. And that is a way that I like to deliver information as well. And when you look at the principles of adult learning, as I've grown to learn them, you have to define the problem so that everybody is on the same page, so that everybody knows where we are starting. Define the problem and make it so inconvenient that cognitively we start looking for the solutions, and the solution is the framework. So she offered a example of a skincare company that she worked with that was the through line for the entire talk. But one of the things that stood out to me the most was her really harping on this perceived difference and actual difference. So the actual difference tends to be the tactics, the specs, the tangible things that make you different from someone else, from another competitor, another company, another solution. But the perceived difference is this mental association for the customer, the consumer, on what you can do for them that someone else could not. And so she talked about, you know, an actual difference being like the ingredients within this skincare product. But the perceived difference was, this is not going to make my skin worse. Before, I guess she was comparing, you know, messaging saying, oh my gosh, this is your glow up. This is, your skin's going to thrive. Where the actual, the perceived difference was, you know, this is not going to make my skin worse. A lot of these glow up, we can make you just absolutely bombshell products make your skin worse before they can even get better. And so with them deeply understanding who their consumer was, they knew that those people, they just wanted relief. They didn't even need to glow. They just needed to not be in pain. And so that was the perceived difference between that company and other companies who were placing emphasis on the glow up. And I really liked that framing, because when I talk about the brand promise, I believe that that is a very similar point of connection. You know, that brand promise is, this is pinky promise. This is what I'm saying I can do for you that no one else can. It's not necessarily the same as the points of differentiation. You're not trying to say, oh, we don't do XYZ, so you should choose us. We don't have fillers in our product, so you should choose us. What does that mean? What does that matter for me? Because our consumers, our clients, our customers, they're not scientists. So you have to create the association of those points of differentiation. What feeling is that supposed to be associated with? And what promise is that associated with? That is what you are to lean in on in your messaging. She also talked about being a scientist. I am a scientist, okay? I've got 2 degrees in sciences. And me and the the scientific method, we go together real bad. Okay? Strategy is your hypothesis. It is your understanding of the current landscape and the conditions in which you are experimenting in. The plan is those methods, and your resources are your materials, right? That is how I think of developing a business. And your risk or your biggest bet is on that hypothesis. This is what we see. This is what we believe to be true about where we are right now. So this is the strategy that we are going to deploy. This is what we will do, and this is what we won't do, because both are equally important, right? So hearing that someone else also thinks of this in a very scientific way made my heart so happy. But hypotheses, especially as the business continues to evolve, are built on the data that you're able to collect beforehand. And if you're not able to collect that data just natively, like the data is coming from your own business, you can get that data from somebody else. You can look at competitors, reviews and testimonials and things. You can look at these deep places where people are having conversations about all kinds of niche subjects, like Reddit. This is something that you can use AI like Perplexity AI to discover. There's a lot of places to get data, and some cost and some are free, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of ways to do it. Let me see. One of the things that, you know, she recommended that I truly believe separates the people who say they want to do the work and actually do the work. And this is me calling pot and kettle, okay? Because it's something that I need to do as well. But she says surveys are first line of defense and not necessarily always the most helpful. It is, okay, once you identify some patterns from those surveys, get on the phone with them folks. Talk to those folks. Ask them questions. Understand their mindset. Understand the language that they're using to describe the problem that they have. And that becomes your messaging. Not just this arbitrary, like, ooh, I've discovered a pattern here. Get deeper. Offer them some value in exchange, right? A lot of people love being at the beginning of something and helping build something. But offer that value in exchange to say, okay, can I ask you a little bit more about this? And that is something that I need to be doing as well. So heard that, got you. She went through a framework, and you know, I'm not going to tell you the exact framework because I do believe that you should hear it from the source. And support her and learn from her. But there are ways to increase the efficiency of your marketing, and it really starts by getting very deeply, intimately clear on who it is you're serving, and not with just demographic data, but understanding their mindset, understanding, you know, what we call psychographics, but being able to build a profile of their existence, a profile of their life, a profile of who they say they are and how they exist in this world, and what unique problems, or what problems are unique to them. Something else that we really align on is, in her conversation about scaling, she mentioned that you can only scale when the market has chosen you. This is not, like, scaling doesn't come first. You have to have product and message fit in the market to then be able to accelerate. And I think that's very important. But also, she talked about this notion of perceived difference and making sure it lands at every touch point. So if you're going from digital ads to a website to the product to onboarding to follow-up to retention to nurture sequences, if you're going to go through all of that, the perceived difference that you know to be your differentiator is supposed to be expressed at every one of those touch points. And I absolutely agree. When I am either doing a training or educating my clients on what the expectation is, that brand promise, that's my word for it, that promise should be delivered at every touch point, or at least communicated at every touch point. And when it's not, that's when you lose people. We talk about funnels and ecosystems. You lose people when the promise is not communicated. And sometimes people get tired of saying the same thing over and over and over. Okay, you can try to say the same thing in different ways. I believe that's marketing. But if you don't understand the promise that you are trying to communicate, to say that, I can deliver on this, then that is where you're going to lose the folks. When that promise isn't made consistently. And so think about how, whether you're thinking in funnels, whether you're thinking in ecosystems, think about all the different touch points, all the different opportunities for someone to interact with your business. And the promise that you're saying, that you are making to them, to that customer, how is it delivered at every one of those touch points? And if it's not, how can you change and adjust one thing at a time to deliver that more frequently? She said it in her talk. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And I completely agree. So I was saying in the video before, going through Raleigh-Durham Startup Week, I really wanted to be able to practice my own messaging, but I also wanted to understand the questions that people were asking and the mindset of the people in the room, what they were asking these professionals, especially in the brand space. And so I got a few responses that I just wanted to make a note of. And number one, she talked about, I can't remember the question, but it was something about finding that target audience. And she said, once you are ready to scale, you expand the segments that you are serving. You're not repositioning the business. Oh, the question was about rebrands. Rebrand and scaling is not the same thing. But if you're ready to scale, you're expanding the segments that you're serving, not repositioning the business. You're not changing the brand promise. You're just saying the brand promise is going to apply to more than one person. And I think that was a great way to really understand the difference between the two. Something else. Again, if they'll buy it ugly, they'll buy it pretty. I thought that was a very great insight. And then when she's talking about AI, or when we're talking about how can we use AI to do these things, to really utilize it to understand more of not only our consumers, but directions, I guess, where we should go within the business. She talked about in the prompting, putting as much of why you are the one to build a company into the prompt so that it understands where you're coming from and what you have to work with to give you an answer that's going to be better fit for what you're trying to do. And I think that goes back to the point that I made a video ago about conviction and making the decision that you are the one to address this problem with this very specific solution. And I think that's brilliant to ensure that whether it's in every prompt, whether it is in historical memory for the AI, having something that details your conviction to this solution and to this problem is absolutely going to change the outcomes and change the suggestions and strengthen what you get from AI tools. So that was my, I guess, reflections and thoughts, and just, yeah, reflections and thoughts after listening to Amanda Sabreah at Raleigh-Durham Startup Week. You can follow her at Amanda Sabreah. I'll put her information in the comments if you want to learn from her and experience the wealth of information and knowledge that she is. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.